we're now across live there.
So, turning to the law, Melanie.
But he goes further, and he says that the plot started not just now.
Yes.
That it started some time ago during the apartheid struggle.
Yes, he does.
Is that relevant?
Maybe it's relevant in this sense that if you say that all of the people who ultimately within the ANC voted to recall him as president, that all of them in fact have their origins as apartheid spies, then it is relevant because that supports our case that what he is saying and what it means is that Mr. Hanekom was an apartheid spy. And he does appear to do that in his testimony before the Zondo Commission, which I will turn to. That there's somehow, if you are against Mr. Zuma now, it meant that you have your origins as being an apartheid spy. I'm not sure if that's the meaning, but if it is, then it does have some meaning. So, Milady, on page 7, we lay out the test for defamatory meaning, and as I've submitted, it's well established that the test is whether, in the opinion of a reasonable person, the words have the tendency to undermine, subvert, or impair a person's good name, reputation, or esteem in the community. And the case references are there. Our appeal courts have also said that this comprises a two-stage inquiry. First one must establish the natural or ordinary meaning of the statement, and most importantly, in establishing the ordinary meaning, the court is not concerned with the meaning which the maker of the statement intended to convey. So, for the purposes of this exercise, the fact that Mr. Zuma says what I meant to say is that he's an enemy agent post-apartheid plotting against me is quite difficult to determine the meaning. It's what the ordinary, reasonable reader would have understood. So halfway down that paragraph, it's an objective test which asks how a person of ordinary intelligence would have understood the publication, and bearing in mind that that person isn't naive, takes into account what the words say and, importantly, what they imply. So Mr. Zuma says, but I did not use the word apartheid agent, and nor did I mention Mr. Hanekom's name in the Zondo testimony. But our highest courts have held the reasonable person is not a fool. They don't only get meaning from the express words, they can also, and do also, understand what words imply. So once that first stage is established, what is the ordinary meaning? How does the ordinary reader understand the text? The second stage is to determine, based on that meaning, would that statement tend to lower Mr. Hanekom in the estimation of right-thinking members of society? Now, most importantly for this case, our courts have held that allegations of dishonest, immoral, or dishonorable conduct are per se defamatory. So, a plaintiff or an applicant does not have to prove when they're called dishonest or
it's automatic.
It's automatic. And I wonder if you can find me the passage from the Mthembu Mahanyela. We'll get back to it. And Milady will know that in defamation law, once the applicant establishes that the statement is in fact defamatory, then the onus shifts to the respondent. And if the respondent can mount one of the recognized defenses to that statement, then it's not unlawful. So if the respondent can convince the court that it was true and in the public interest, that it was protected comment, etc., then it might be defamatory, but it's not unlawful. If, on the other hand, Mr. Zuma can't discharge that onus, then it is both defamatory and unlawful. But for the present exercises, we say that our courts have said that this type of comment is per se defamatory.
Are you seeking to elevate the statement that you're an apartheid spy as a per se defamatory?
Yes. Yes. And we say so for these reasons. Mr. Hanekom would not object to being called an ANC spy. In fact, he himself has said, you can kind of say that that's what I did with Mr. Hunter. Mr. Hunter infiltrated the SADF on behalf of the ANC, and he passed information on to me, which I passed on to the ANC, and that information was instrumental in giving the ANC insight into the SADF attacks on Renamo in Mozambique.
Yes.
Now, Mr. Hanekom went to jail for that. He went to jail for treason. And he proudly says, yes, I played my part. You can call it a spy, but I was a spy for the ANC. But to be called a spy for the enemy, a spy for the other side, is for somebody who has dedicated their life to the liberation struggle, there can be little more that is per se defamatory. The world, his comrades, the country he served as minister, are being told that he pretended to be on the ANC side, but all of that time he was actually serving the interests of the racist apartheid state. That is about as defamatory, plainly defamatory as it gets for a man in his position.
Would I have to make a finding as to who or what the enemy means?
Yes.
In the context?
Yes, and Milady, I deal with that in some detail in my case. And
just for the record, both applicant and respondent are still loyal members of the ANC?
Yes. Mr. Hanekom serves on the NEC. He serves on the disciplinary structures. He serves in leadership positions in the NEC. So it's devastating to his reputation for his comrades to be told that all these years, since the 1970s, he's been deceived. He's been working against their interests. That's the heart of it. That's the sting of it. And again, in his heads of argument, Mr. Zuma pulls up lots and lots and lots of tweets and statements that insult Mr. Hanekom. There's no problem with ordinary political mudslinging. They can say, if you try to get rid of Zuma as president of this country, you are a disgrace. We hate you for that. We have no problem with that. We have no problem with Mr. Zuma saying, people who plotted against me are my enemies. And I think they're disgraceful. I think they're disgraceful that they ousted the sitting president. That's not the stinging statement. Mr. Zuma is the only one so far who said he was an apartheid spy. And that elicited a slew of tweets and WhatsApps and abusive statements from people who heard it from his mouth to say you're an apartheid spy. And ironically, a lot of the tweets and messages that Mr. Zuma puts on the record show that the response to his tweet is people saying, Hanekom was an apartheid spy. He betrayed us all these years.
No, but there's nowhere that Mr. Zuma says that Mr. Hanekom was an apartheid spy. What he says is an enemy agent.
Yes.
And that's
Yes.
common cause.
That's common cause.
Yeah.
Our argument is that properly interpreted, it implies.
The reading.
Yes, and people understood that clearly. And that's what I'll get to in a minute. No, those were not his words in his
Yes,
tweet.
let's just make that clear.
Yes. He linked the words in his tweet to his testimony at the Zondo Commission.
It's an influence.
It's an influence. And then I remind the lady of the Lord says that is as much part of the statement as the express words for the purposes of determining its meaning. I was speaking to the point that my learned friends put a lot of emphasis on all the insults that have been hurled since this and before this tweet at Mr. Hanekom. And I say, well, that's legitimate political mostly. What's different where Mr. Zuma stands out is if this counts, he did in fact really want to apartheid spy. That's the statement. So let's then turn. This is the heart of our case, why we say the statement means that he was an apartheid spy. Let's then look at the proper interpretation of the statement. So, top of page 8, paragraph 15. We've reproduced it again. And for present purposes, the phrase we're looking at is known enemy agent, the last 3 words. It is part of the plan I mentioned at the Zondo Commission. Derek Hanekom is a known enemy agent. Now, known enemy agent, paragraph 17. In the context of the liberation struggle, in which both Mr. Zuma and Mr. Hanekom fought on the side of the ANC against the apartheid state, we say the reasonable reader would understand enemy agent to mean agent of the apartheid state who infiltrated the ANC, pretending to be loyal to the ANC, but actually answering to the interests of the apartheid regime. Mr. Zuma says no, in that context, it simply means the person who secretly met with the EFF to ask him as president. Now, on Mr. Zuma's interpretation, who is the enemy? Is it the EFF? Is it the other opposition parties? Is it the NEC of the ANC? Because the highest body of the ANC that ultimately colluded to remove him. Mr. Hanekom may have started the process of talking, colluding, if you will, earlier than that. But that's what happens in political parties. So Mr. Zuma is saying that when ordinary people read it's part of the plan I mentioned at the Zondo Commission, Hanekom is a known enemy agent. He's saying what people understood by that is an enemy of those who plotted to remove me as president. So, in other words, what he's saying is that for him, enemy means enemy of Mr. Zuma in his capacity as head of state. Now, we submit that in this country, in the context of this tweet, the reasonable reader wouldn't understand enemy to mean enemies, political enemies of Mr. Zuma, those who plotted against Mr. Zuma a couple of years ago. But we went further than enemy. He says enemy agent. So the word agent means a person who actually acts on behalf of another group. An enemy agent is not someone who merely connives with the enemy, but he does so secretly and dishonestly on the enemy's side. So whose agent is, in this interpretation, whose agent is Mr. Zuma saying Mr. Hanekom is? Does the reasonable reader say, oh, so what he means is that he's an agent of Mr. Malena's? He's the agent of those who sought to depose him and succeeded in deposing his president. Well, I don't think the reasonable reader imagines for a moment that Mr. Hanekom is an agent of Mr. Malena's, an agent of opposition parties, an agent of forces somehow outside of the party that attempted to depose Mr. Zuma. Mr. Zuma might think so. It's just plainly not what it means. That was paragraphs 22 and 23. And Mr. Zuma's actually said that Mr. Hanekom plotted with another political party or parties and many senior ANC members. So is he suggesting that they are all agents of some darker force? Well, he might think that, but that's not what his statement means. So at paragraph 24, we say the meaning that Mr. Zuma ascribes to enemy agents is in fact his political enemies. It's those in the ANC and in the opposition parties who wanted to, and in fact did remove him from office. They were his political enemies. They are his political enemies, and Mr. Hanekom is his political enemy. But he didn't say my enemies, my political enemies. He said enemy agents. Now that is a different meaning altogether. And Milady, there should be a reference to this. In his replying affidavit at paragraph 17, and these are Mr. Hanekom's words, not mine. He says, it's an act of hubris. I've quoted it here. Okay. Sorry, you don't have to turn me away. Right. I apologize. This should be an inverted commas.
Again.
Mr. Hanekom says it is an act of hubris to describe one's political enemies. Sorry. It's an act of hubris to describe one's political enemies as enemy agents, enemies of the ANC and enemies of the state. Mr. Zuma isn't synonymous with the ANC or the state. If you're an enemy of Mr. Zuma, you're not simultaneously and automatically an enemy of the ANC. So the reasonable reader would not understand the meaning of enemy agents in that way. In other words, to mean the people who want to remove him from office. It's Mr. Zuma who confuses his political enemies with enemy agents. It's not the reasonable reader. The reasonable reader doesn't see Mr. Zuma as synonymous with the ANC. If you're an enemy of his, you're an enemy of the ANC. On the contrary, we all know that the ANC is divided at least half, in half, and there's a war going on. And indeed, the reasonable reader who is not naive, who is reasonably well informed, and this is paragraph 26, is well aware that it's legitimate ANC practice to recall the head of state. It's the prerogative of any political party. Ironically, Mr. Zuma led the move to recall former President Mbeki. That is what the ANC does. What any political party that adheres to democratic processes. So, paragraph 27 then summarizes what we say about enemy agents. Mr. Zuma disingenuously conflates two enemies, his own enemies and the enemy of the party. A party member is perfectly entitled to persuade others in the party to remove the president. And perhaps he's even entitled to conspire to do so. He or she might be an enemy of the president, but he's not an enemy of the party. He could hardly, in this instance, be an enemy of the party that did in fact remove Mr. Zuma at the end of the day. That's enemy agent, but it goes further than that. Known enemy agent. Paragraph 28 below. Using the adjective known, Mr. Zuma was saying that he's not just reacting to this revelation now that Mr. Malema made. He's saying that the meeting was merely confirmation of what he'd known about Mr. Hanekom all along. In other words, known enemy agent speaks to Mr. Hanekom's reputation. It doesn't speak to a recent event.
So that's where you're saying the history comes in.
I'm saying that if you say someone, if Mr. Zuma had said, Mr. Malema said that Mr. Hanekom conspired with me to remove Mr. Zuma's president. If Mr. Zuma had said, that makes him my enemy, I realize now that that man is my enemy. That's one thing. He doesn't say that. He says, it confirms what we have always known. We've always known that he's an enemy agent. And that, yes, in the context of the Zondo evidence, which I go to now, that means known means in the apartheid era, because that is the import of the Zondo evidence. My lady is queries.
No, fine.
Would you mind finding the passage in the file that we will quote the Zondo? So, just going back to that statement, he says, Mr. Zuma said, I'm not surprised by Julius Malema revelations regarding Act Derek Hanekom. It's part of the plan I mentioned at the Zondo Commission. Derek Hanekom is a known agent. So, it's Mr. Zuma who links what he says to his much publicized evidence at the Zondo Commission. He says in his papers that we disingenuously make that link, but we don't. He makes that link. He says to the ordinary reader, you must understand what I mean by calling him a known enemy agent in the context of my testimony at the Zondo Commission. Now, what is the nub of his testimony at the Zondo Commission? And we say at paragraph 31 that the nub of the evidence at the Zondo Commission was that the plan against him was the work of 3 foreign intelligence agencies and apartheid spies who had infiltrated the ANC. And then he actually names 2 people who were prominent ANC members who he says were in fact apartheid spies way back from those days. Mr. Ramaphosa and General Zuma. Malady, we have reproduced, if Malady turns to page 11 of the papers, this is the filing affidavit.
I've seen that.
Yes. You see that what Mr. Zuma is saying is that the reason he is being attacked today is because the people who attack him today were apartheid spies. And then at the end of apartheid, he says they stayed in place in order to do the bidding of foreign agents outside of the ANC in order to undermine them. So that is what he famously said. at the Zondo Commission. He named and shamed apartheid spies. So the ordinary reader would see no enemy agent, my testimony at Zondo, and his testimony at Zondo kept talking about and naming apartheid spies. And there must be a link between the two readers. In fact, my lady, we say, even without the reference to the Zondo Commission, that when one senior member of the ANC calls another a known enemy agent, the most likely meaning is an apartheid spy. But that is thoroughly reinforced by the fact that he himself says, that's the plan I was talking about at Zondo. At Zondo, I said apartheid spies. So the lady has read these extracts.
Yes, I know.
So yes, paragraph 32, Mr. Zuma didn't name Mr. Hanekom in his Zondo commission. He named up.
All right, we're coming out of that process and we'll follow the outcomes, but we're now going live to a meeting.